Here's your 3-head EconoFlow Flowmaster. Just want to touch on a couple of important things that'll help you get this set up and running. One thing to note: these 3 lines are individually adjustable in quantity and speed. The important thing is that they kind of match each other in all of that, and the quantity is adjusted by these. To adjust the quantity, you loosen this, move this block back and forth. We have a little mark here to get you started for the one containers that we have. I think you probably saw them earlier in the video, but that's kind of a rough guide to a good starting point for that particular container. If you have different containers, then your quantity will change. But anyway, that's a starting point. This mark here, and you would do the same with all 3. If you want more, you move this back, loosen and move it back. Make sure it's pretty tight when you set it, and less, move it up. Now to prime the machine, I would suggest. And by priming, I mean when you want to fill all the lines with product, because you want to get the air out of it. So I would suggest loosen these up, move them all back to, I'll say roughly a 5.5. We'll say. That setting's not important. And then what we'll do, we'll run that a few times. And what I'm trying to accomplish here is just by pulling more product through, it'll prime it a whole lot faster. It'll pull any air bubbles that are in the lines. It'll push them back out. Okay, I'm just gonna, for the video, I'll just do that, and then I'll reset these back to where our level should be. Crank that. Our levels were looking good, so that line should be very close to where you want to be. We weren't sure where your fill line was on that container, and we only had 3 to mess with. But anyway, another important thing is each cylinder is individually adjustable for speed in both directions, and you want to, particularly in the draw direction, you want to match these fairly close. I'll cycle a few and I'll show you them running. See, they come back, then now they're dispensing. Okay, I'll go back again. They're pretty good. Now if you say, let's say, what I'll do, I'll slow this one down. And if you want to slow it down, you crank it. This is a needle flow control valve. I'm going to crank it in a little bit. And you watch this one will slow down some. And you'll see that these will be making contact with the switches before this. See that? I'll do it again. And what you want to do is you want to have them making contact with the switches as close as you can. It's not a critical thing, but you want them all to be arriving at the switches about the same time. So I'll do it again. That's pretty good. And as you see, all I did there was I cranked that out counterclockwise a little bit, which sped it up in that direction. Now, on the other end of this air cylinder, this flow control controls your dispensing speed. And that's actually how fast the product is pushed out into the container. Probably for production purposes, you want to go as fast as you can. You can probably go faster than what we were doing. I'll show you maybe you can look at how fast we're dispensing. You really can't see it, but we're pushing it out at a fairly slow, gentle rate. And you can go as fast as you want on that direction until you start splashing out of the container, because the air has to get out of the container. So that's going to be pretty much trial and error. But again, you want to kind of set these speeds to where you're finishing at the same time. If one cylinder's lagging behind, you can speed it up. And again, you can probably keep going faster until if you see splashing, then you want to back it off a little bit. And I think you saw that on the containers. It filled them pretty nicely at that speed, and we could probably go faster, especially with a product that has some viscosity in it. The other thing is I wanted to mention, your filter. This is your filter regulator over here. That's here. We want to, this particular machine, we want to run it around 60 psi. Looks like we're a little, I can't see with the shadow. We may be a little under that, but 60 psi, give or take a little bit. You don't want to crank this one up too much. The components can handle it, but we'd like this to be at about 60 thereabouts. No, another little feature we can back over here. If you want to, probably the easiest thing to do to prime the machine is just dump it into a bucket, or maybe if you have a special tray. But if you want to, you can remove this head assembly with these wing nuts or handles. We can pull this off. A lot of thread on there. That just comes off, and you can lift it out, and if you wanted to dump it into a bucket somewhere, but you want to save that, like you can do like we were doing and just dump it into a bucket. But you want to prime it a few times, prime it many times actually, to get the air out of the lines. Then your fill weights will be a lot better. Okay, we'll touch on what your cleanout procedure is going to be on this. We don't really know if you're going to be running. I guess you have many different colors or products. I don't know if you just want to flush the lines with acetone or something. But if you come down to where you want to actually take everything apart, I'll show you here. This is filled with water, but you probably wouldn't want to do this with nail polish. So what we're going to do, we'll take this filling head off here, and we're going to get water out of here, so be aware. And then there's a gasket. There you go. And this is a filling head. This is the head. These are check valves. I don't really see a need for you to be taking these out. But if you find that your clean out procedure is something where you want to take everything apart, just make sure you put these back in the right way. See, there's an arrow on this one. Arrow points up, and there's an arrow on this one somewhere there. Both arrows point up, because this check valve draws in, and this check valve is your outlet check valve. This is your piston is here, and there's an O-ring seal on there. I'm gonna take this off, and I'll show you piston. We'll lose our water here, but no biggie. Notice the piston head comes up to about 1/8 of an inch from the front of the cylinder here. And I'm going to loosen these clamps, and I'm going to pull this cylinder forward, and I'll show you the seals. There's 2 O-rings on this piston head, and then there's your cylinder. I'll put it back. Might have to lift these blocks out of the way a little bit. I'll put this back too. There's marks on this cylinder. I don't know if the camera will even see it. There's a line there, if you can see. That line goes up to front of that block. Now, I did something that I probably shouldn't have. I had the air on the machine. I should have probably taken the air off. As a rule, anytime you are working on a machine, you should remove the air. So you can edit that out. So I'll put this back. As I said, I don't know what your clean out procedure will be, but if you're just going to flush the lines with your next product, or similar color. But I'll show you. I just showed you that just in case. There will be a time too when you have to change seals. The O-rings. That's really dependent on the product. especially if you have abrasives in the product, you may see that you need to change seals more often than if you don't have abrasives. Put the gasket back in, tighten this down, put him in, make sure that's all the way down in there. Crank it back up. Hand tight is fine on these. And that's it.